All right, and welcome to this episode of Better Call Saul, where Rachael Real and I talk to Saul Klein. How's everybody doing today?
Good. How about you?
Great.
Good morning.
So today we wanted to talk about Web 3.0 and all the changes with the internet and kind of like what does that mean? But Saul, can you give us a little bit of context first? Like, why are we even calling it Web 3.0 and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so this whole idea of Web 3 or Web 3.0 all kind of revolves around blockchain.
Yeah.
And there are some really interesting things that are going to happen in the real estate industry over time, but it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to take some time. As I mentioned,
As things do.
Yeah, we're really a lot earlier. Now, when I listen to some of my friends who are pundits in the industry, consultants in the industry, and they're all starting to do webinars and have conversations about this, but none of them really know very much about it. And so the most common thing you hear in all of them is, I'm really excited about this. Isn't this exciting? Right?
Is
But
it?
they're not quite sure what they're excited about.
You're really not sure. And so the big thing that people are kind of latching onto is this thing they refer to as NFTs, non-fungible tokens. And NFTs, I'm so excited about NFT, right? It's like, what do you even know? And so we've got this conversation going on in the industry about the use of new technologies when very few people really understand anything at all about this. And so,
I mean, there's still people with an AOL account, Saul.
Yeah, Yahoo accounts. Like, no judgment or anything, but no. So it might work for them, right?
Right.
And so what
Tax and offers and everything. Oh, Lord.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what we have to understand here is that this use of the internet and the web is evolving.
Yes.
And it's changed over time. And nobody ever really had to understand how it really worked to use it.
Right.
So
Yes.
So we go back. So people talk Web 3 or Web 3.0. Well, that doesn't mean anything unless you know there was a Web 1.0.
Right.
Or
But
a Web 2.0.
Right.
So
True.
Web 3, what is that? Right. So let's go back because it's very important in trying to understand where this is all going and what people mean when they say Web 3. So first we'll say there was Web 1 or Web 1.0.
And that was you trying to get all the brokers to put their listings on the internet.
Yeah. So what it was there was two pieces to Web 1.
Okay.
And they're still with us. And the two pieces were email and websites.
Yes.
Now, believe it or not, there was a time when it was hard to convince people that email was going to be important.
Right.
And
Wow.
yet,
Can you imagine?
Yeah, no, it was people really, we joke about it, people really thought it was a fact. That's why we named our company Internet Crusade, because we knew that crusaders have to go out and bang people's heads over and over and over again before they believe it.
Right.
So we set out to explain the uses and the applications of this new thing. It really wasn't new, but it was making its way commercially because the internet was created in 1968. And it was created in 1968 by DARPANET, which was the US government. And the purpose of it was to create a communication capability in the event of a nuclear holocaust.
Okay.
That's what it was built for. And so we used it for email, and it was text-based, and it was really read-only. You couldn't change it. You could just
like a telegram or something almost.
Yeah,
right.
It was read-only. You couldn't respond. And then Tim Berners-Lee invented or came up with this idea of World Wide Web. Somebody invented the browser and HTML, kind of a new language, and all of a sudden people could publish graphically, but it's still read-only.
Okay.
Unless you're somebody who could write HTML or write, it was read-only. And so Web 1.0 was basically email and websites, and it was like receiving information. And you had to, if you responded, it was not tied to what you were responding, right? Directly tied. So that was Web 1.0, and had a specific technology. On the email side, it was DNS and it was HTML on the website. And that's Web 1.0. We use that. We still use that.
Right.
But it was read-only. And
Okay.
so then the next phase was what people called Web 2 or Web 2.0. And what happened was a whole new technology stack was built to allow for Web 2.0, which became the engagement portion of the web. And that's when we saw blogs and social
Social
media,
media. Uh-huh.
all that stuff, because now you didn't have to be a programmer to write stuff. It could go, people could respond, and it so
Well, and I remember too, like did we have, yeah, like email was more common like at work, but it wasn't like I was on my phone all day, like if I wasn't
Right.
working,
No.
right?
yeah. Well,
No,
because
it
we
was
didn't have
only
the
it was only
tools
at your
either.
office, and you had one computer that could get the email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it took a while for that to catch, and then Web 2 was this introduction of a new stack of technology. They call it the LAMP stack, Linux, Apache, right? There were these LAMP, and this created the capability to create this technology that let people respond and engage.
Okay.
Right.
And that's where we are today.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with it is, go back to Web 1. Web 1 wasn't designed to allow commerce. It was
Right.
designed for use in the event of a nuclear holocaust. So then when the web came out, somebody got the bright idea. Matter of fact, initially, if you tried to use email or discussion groups online for anything but academic uses, or people
Right.
would flame you. If you did, they just come in and just they'd razz you in
Yeah.
a not so nice way. And if you weren't very good at it, you didn't belong there.
Yeah.
That
Right.
was the whole idea, right? So then all of a sudden we've got this new capability, but back to Web 1.0 or Web 1, it wasn't built for commercialization. That's not what it was built for. So it had all kinds of holes in it. In about 1999, 2000, thereabouts, people started using it for commercial use, and that's when they started you could take credit cards over. Right? That was unheard of. You couldn't do that. And the first day that you could do that online, I remember I was in the LA airport with my business partner, and we were the first people to take credit cards. We were selling domains and email in the real estate business, and we actually got to a level where the bank cut us off because they weren't sure how real all of this was. And they said, you sold your quota for the day.
No.
No, you couldn't do it because they weren't sure with the credit cards.
It kind of feels like where we're at now with like the Bitcoin and stuff. It's like nobody's quite.
Yeah, exactly. They weren't so sure. So there's this book. This is kind of interesting. It's Life After Google. And it's The Fall of Big Data and the Rise of the Blockchain Economy by George Gilder, who's kind of a very prescient scientist kind of guy. And he goes through here all of the flaws that we're all so familiar with when we log in, right?
Yeah.
It's it's the wrong email address, or that's the wrong password. Would you like to set your password? Oh, that's not the email address that you signed up with.
Right. Oh
It
my
goes
God.
on and on and on. That's
Stuff that makes my brain hurt.
Yes.
So, but that's the way it is, right? And so it wasn't, the first part of the Web 1 and Web 2 wasn't really built for commerce. And so now there's a new stack of technology that allows,
it's like only commerce almost.
Well, yes, blockchain. You can actually use it for a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so they call it blockchain. So, and then down the line, you have to understand that this underlying technology for Web 3 is really this thing called blockchain. And we don't have to get into conversation about that because that's like email. You don't need to understand how it works. But it allows for decentralization. It allows for immutable records. Can't change them.
Well, if people want to, we did do that one Better Call Saul episode on who survives, like who in the transaction survives when we have blockchain and all that. And so they can go and watch that video.
Yeah. So when we talk about blockchain, now when I listen to my friends, they talk about NFTs.
Okay.
But who's going to understand NFT? Non-fungible tokens. I can kind of explain it in a way that people would understand it. It still doesn't mean very much. So you got to go back to what is the sequence?
Yeah.
And so you really want to understand Web3. First, you got to understand that there is something called blockchain.
Yes.
You don't need to know how it works, but you got to know there's something called blockchain. And then what gets derived or built using that technology? Well, the first thing that we're all familiar with is something called cryptocurrency. Now, not all of us are really familiar with cryptocurrency, but one thing we've all heard is the term Bitcoin.
Right.
So Bitcoin is possible because of blockchain technology.
Right.
And Bitcoin is one type of cryptocurrency. So you got blockchain, which gives rise to cryptocurrency, of which Bitcoin is a type.
Well, it's kind of like money now, right? So we have all different types of money, but there's, like each country has its own money. It's kind of like that. Like
Yeah,
there's a
so
lot
you've
of
got
cryptocurrency.
yeah,
Okay.
Bitcoin, it's over 2,000, 3,000 different, right? We've got
Ethereum.
Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, Doge, right? All these different types of cryptocurrencies that are possible because of blockchain.
Right.
And so something else that's possible because of blockchain is something called NFT, non-fungible tokens. So if somebody just gives you those initials, first of all, that's hard to, what is that? And then if somebody even tells you what it means, non-fungible token, that doesn't mean anything. So what you have to realize is it's like a product built because of blockchain along the lines of cryptocurrency. And so NFT, and the way I explain NFT is take a movie, take a frame in a movie, one frame, like Cinderella or Snow
That's your
White.
favorite movie? Cinderella?
No, it's not, but it makes sense. So with Snow White, you got the prince, and he's going to give her a kiss, and it's going to be right. So that one frame, what if you could take it and you could kind of like copyright it and put it in a form that Disney's only going to make 100 of them and sell them.
Okay.
And then it's authenticated. It's only 100 of them in existence, and they sell them. Now, who's going to buy them? Well, maybe not me. Huh?
Like collectors, I guess.
Collectors or people that are from a different generation, right? Because I used to buy baseball cards.
Yeah.
Right. And so, well, they weren't worth anything, but I could trade them. So they were worth something because other people would trade. Now, there wasn't a unified marketplace, but there are unified marketplaces around trading these new types of currencies. And NFTs could be like a new type of currency. And you can use that for different things. And in the real estate industry, we can think of ways to use this for maybe photographs.
Mm-hmm.
What if you could authenticate every photograph and know who owns it?
Right.
And so think about this. Somebody takes a listing and then it doesn't sell. And so another agent takes the listing. Have you ever known this to happen? They use the pictures that the first agent took.
Yeah, they're not really well, or I mean, right, or that somebody else took, not
or
them.
Somebody else's.
Yeah.
But if there's a way you could identify the photos that you took,
yeah,
that would preclude that. As a matter of fact, maybe Jennifer, you want to use my photos, it's okay. I want a nickel for every photo that you use.
Right. So cheaper than paying the photographer.
Well, it could be a practical application to the use of NFTs in real estate. Now, blockchain. When I hear the word blockchain I think of chain of title.
Yeah.
Right. And to be able to, so you got title insurance companies that keep chain of title. It's A sold it to B, sold it to C, sold it to D. It's as authentic as the recording, but people can cheat on that. And so the capability to kind of lock that down and make it more secure, that makes sense. I guarantee you title insurance companies are looking at this right now.
Yeah.
So
I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, it makes sense, right?
Yeah. So when we hear Web 3.0, you got to go back and see, well, what is it based on? First of all, it's blockchain, then products are derived from that, and then uses are derived from that. So I made this little chart up. I say it's blockchain, and then it's cryptocurrency, of which there are different types, Bitcoin, Ethereum, NFTs. And then what's going to happen is you're going to have a crypto financial system evolve, where people will take this and finance. And then once that crypto financial system is going, then you'll have a whole economy based around.
That's like kind of one of the points, right? Like that everybody controls it and nobody does, right?
Yeah, that's part of the point, is that it's distributed, right? And that it's not centralized, and that it takes out the middleman. And then you can, so people talk about this, but I also gave you a link to Professor Scott Galloway, who says, it's not really the way it's going to go, and it's still kind of early, and it's really not Web 3.0. It's really Web 2.00001.
Which is kind of scary, right?
It's real early.
Because it feels like it's already came like pretty far from what it was like. So the fact that, I mean, I imagine it's going to include a lot of different virtual realities, and, I don't know. I don't think it'd be crazy.
Exactly. It's evolving in that way, right? So you say, well, so I get to this conversation, people talk about what is Bitcoin? Well, first of all, it's built on the blockchain. It's a type of cryptocurrency. Why does it have value? It has value because other people think it has value.
Right.
That's the reason it has value. Why does a $20 bill have value? Because other people think it has value.
Right.
Now, I can't eat a $20 bill, but people will give me food in exchange for it.
Right.
Why? Because they trust that other people will take it. Right. So we've got this trust, and that's why fiat currencies work, is because other people will take it because there's a marketplace.
Yeah.
And so cryptocurrency, will get to that. Why would people ever take crypto as payment? Because we also talk about this. Will houses be bought using cryptocurrency? Well, right now it's too volatile. But if it ever became stable, then sure, right? That's probably the way that it's going to go. So we've got this, cryptocurrency side. We've got Bitcoin. A lot of people can't understand it, but really to understand why it would have value is simply understanding that if other people will take it in trade, then it has value.
Yeah.
Then it's got value, right?
And so once it becomes common,
it's also finite, correct?
Well, Bitcoin is.
A lot. I mean, all the cryptocurrencies are, right?
No, not necessarily. No, Bitcoin is specifically.
Bitcoin.
Right?
Okay.
And Satoshi, whatever, when he created this, it was created, they say, a hedge against inflation, partially because they're only going to create so much. It's only possible to create so much. Where these other ones, that's not the purpose. And so it can do other things. And matter of fact, all cryptocurrency is not necessarily currency. It's created for specific uses. You hear the word token and tokenization, right? And that's building a product on top of this technology that is very secure, that protects identity, that is trusted. Now, for all of this to evolve to that place, people have to kind of believe that they want it. There has to be a market for it.
Right.
Right. So when that's where we'll roll down to at some point, where you have a crypto financial system, because there are people, a market. Then you'll have a crypto economy.
I mean, there kind of already is.
Yeah, but it's just not universal, right?
It's it's in the very infant stages, I think. And if this is 2.00001,
right,
what kind of time frame do you think we're looking at for this to reach a 3.0?
Yeah,
where we have this, this system that's universal, that everyone buys into and everyone trusts and has that comfortable level of participation in.
Well, as soon as it becomes less volatile.
Yeah.
Right. Generally. And people say 5 to 10 years. And I don't know what that period of time is. But so start to look for practical application of it before people are trading Bitcoin to buy houses.
Right. Yeah. 5 to 10 years seems awfully fast.
Yeah. Well, it does seem fast, but when you look at the speed of technology and how the speed accelerates over time, it probably isn't that fast. It'll probably happen sooner than that. And so this will continue to evolve.
What makes it volatile?
What makes it volatile is not everybody trusts what makes it go up and down. People aren't sure yet.
Right.
Typically, but it is an opportunity for all currency everywhere. If there was only cryptocurrency, then the value of all currency is the same, right? Because it's if everybody's using it, it's not like we'll have like USD, euros, whatever.
No, you would be. You still have different. Depends on who wants it, and if more people want it than there is in existence, that's going to change the price. It's still based on the laws of supply and demand.
Yeah.
Right. And if it's a fixed amount and more people want it, then that's going to drive the price up.
Right.
Fixed amount and less people want it, then the price is going to kind of like the dollar or the rupee or any type of currency. Right. The more people that want it, so the values change every day. Go to the bank and they got all these currencies and they got and they're always changing. And so crypto's no different.
But if there was an agreement that everybody was like, okay, we're going to do cryptocurrency and we're going to have 2 or 3 that are the ones that are most widely accepted, right? Then
that would make it less volatile.
It would not be volatile, right?
Okay. Or be less volatile.
That's what I mean. Yeah, less. Okay,
But at this point, that you don't have that. You don't have that worldwide acceptance.
No, but it's possible. I mean, look at credit cards. Like you have, most places will accept like a Visa or a MasterCard.
Well, yeah, and one of the reasons they do, because there's federation. That's a whole nother concept. Federation, right? Where I can use my Wells Fargo debit card at a community bank, right? I can put my card into something other than Wells Fargo. Why?
Right.
Because these entities are federated. And so the ability to use it in more places makes it more acceptable and reduces volatility, right? So, but it's going to take time for that to take place. And then you're going to have these markets where people can exchange back and forth. If I want to cash, I can do it right now. I want to cash my Bitcoin in for $1, I can. If I want to change my Bitcoin into Ethereum, I can. But right now, it's still a mystery to most people.
But for realtors, well, the blockchain matters because
Blockchain matters.
Chain of title is part of the process. I think that people at some point will be able to buy houses. I think there will also be a place for us in whatever virtual reality is happening where people are kind of doing the same thing, buying and selling. So there may be some opportunities there. How else do you see realtors like day to day being affected?
Well, when we talked about images, photos.
Oh, right. The data.
Right?
Yeah,
so
for
there's
sure.
Right, photos and information that you create, you can own it. And people will know that you own it if it's all done within blockchain. So there are, and that's an important point, application. Let's not worry about right now whether or not people are going to trade, buy houses using Bitcoin, because I wouldn't take it because it might be up 50% today and down 50% tomorrow, right? So it's not stable enough, although they're stable because there are ways to get around that. But I think if you start thinking about it from that perspective, you're kind of missing out on the first ways it's going to be utilized.
Do you think that, let's say, okay, so the data becomes, I guess or the picture and the data, they all become these like NFTs or whatever. And it's like the one thing. Do you think then there's a possibility for like, if all of that's true and all the data is accessible, could I then represent a client that's buying a house in South Africa? Or California, or like whatever.
As long as you're licensed.
No, but I'm saying without the license, like would there be like a universal real estate license?
Like a virtual license for conducting business on in the virtual reality. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
No, even in real life.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
I don't see that happening.
You're still going to be bound by the laws within your state, right? Or the securities laws, because you might be dealing with security of the federal government. So just because you can doesn't mean you don't need a license.
Right.
But this idea, and this is important too, I think this idea of taking currency that's not real in most people's eyes.
Right.
It's not real now.
Yeah, well, and using it, but if other people accept it, it is.
Okay.
Right. So
we just have the percentage of buy-in to the system itself is pretty small right now. So until we see, 50% of the people buying into that, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be like, I don't know, I don't trust that.
And it's moving, and it's exactly. I won't try because I don't know what it is. I don't understand.
Right.
But look at where it's being utilized in sports and in entertainment, right? Where Paris Hilton creates, I don't know, a picture of herself, and she says, "This is I'm only going to do 10 of these, and you can have one of the 10." And so I buy one of the 10 and I own one of the 10. You say, big deal, you own one of the 10. But what if there's a marketplace where other people want to buy one of the 10?
Right.
And so there's a market. That's why stocks are traded. There's a marketplace for it.
Right.
So there's before the idea of cryptocurrency became the buzzword, we had do you remember the website called Second Life?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Second Life was kind of like, it reminds me of EXP kind of, right? Second Life, you could go into Second Life, you could create yourself, your character, your avatar, and you could go into Second Life, and it was hard to maneuver around. For me, I could always find, there weren't a lot of people in it, but I joined it first because I thought it was kind of an interesting concept. And I noticed all these avatars where it had spiked hair and nose rings and different dress. How did they get that on their avatar? And the way they did was they had to buy those things, even though they were virtual. You had to buy them. And what did you buy them with? You bought them with lindens, right? The currency of Second Life were lindens. And lindens, why do they call it linden? Because I think that Second Life was built by Linden Laboratories in New Jersey or something, right? So they call them lindens. So how do I get linden? I want some lindens so I can spike my hair and have pink eyebrows. And so how do I get lindens? Well, I had to take my credit card and give them my credit card number. And then I would get so many lindens for the dollars.
Yeah,
So I
like
said,
an
I'm going to buy
exchange.
$10 and I get, right. And that would fluctuate the value of a linden based on how many people want it. So I don't know where Second Life is today, but for me, it was the first time I kind of got this idea that you could trade dollars, fiat currency, for something that none of us really understand. But as long as people would take it and track it, buy a haircut and give me spiked hair because for 5 lindens.
Right.
Right.
But
It's
who would
worth
want-
what somebody's willing to pay for it. Right.
It's created a marketplace where there's a demand, and as more people use it, if everybody was in Second Life, then that the value of that currency would stabilize.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, not enough people use the things we refer to as cryptocurrency for it to be stabilized, at least stabilized enough to use it in the purchase of a house, right? Because I could use it and the value could drop. Now, if I think the value is going to go up, maybe I'll take it.
Right.
But there is just so much volatility in these currencies today that it doesn't seem to me that you're going to see anytime soon people willing to take Bitcoin as compensation for real property.
I mean, I
right?
think you're gonna
Right,
have
right.
there was like somebody who did, right? You're gonna have all these you're gonna have people that outliers, but you're saying
You're
like
gonna have the outliers,
as a
right?
common,
Right.
yeah.
Do you think that there's a demographic, an age group, Saul, that is more inclined to buy into this, Bitcoin and in virtual currency and those kind of things? And do you think that as people age out of the out of the home ownership, so the older generations, once they age out and you kind of have the younger people start moving in, that this is going to become more common?
Well, I got to think so, because you look at the people that are involved in
Right.
buying the athletic NFT,
Right.
mostly a younger generation of people. So
Right.
I absolutely think that a big piece of adoption will have to do with age, for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
We'll see that.
It's going to definitely be interesting. And one of the questions I think for us is important to ask. It's a question that you ask all the time about the, what is it?
What's the currently possible question?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's currently possible in your business? And if it were impossible, it would fundamentally change the way you do business. And the other side of it, what's currently impossible? And if it were possible, it would fundamentally change the way you do business. Well, for people in real estate, it's not coming anytime soon, but that doesn't mean it won't come within your career lifetime.
Right.
Right.
And so to begin to pay attention, because we can already see some basic uses of being able to identify and authenticate in the industry, as we mentioned, in photography, in chain of title at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe someday cryptocurrency will be utilized, and we're seeing some of the outliers today. And who would be most apt to accept it right away? Probably people who are more open to change, which are always younger people, right?
Right.
Now think about this: the blockchain or Bitcoin today. If I lived in a country that was falling, I know my relatives in Germany in pre-World War II had to escape. German, Jewish, they had to escape. How do you take your wealth with you?
Right.
It's like, oh, I can't take. So what's not bulky? And so some of my relatives were jewelers. And so
Nice.
one part of the family escaped to Shanghai with diamonds because they were diamond merchants, right? So diamonds compact, got value. Why does a diamond have value? Because other people will pay you money for it, right?
Right.
So they were able to use that to escape and take some of their wealth with them. If you lived in war-torn parts of the world today and you wanted to get your wealth out, whether you trusted it or not, if you had access to Bitcoin, you would probably try to turn your current currency into Bitcoin, because you knew if you got out to some other country,
you
could access it. It would be right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So people are going to start to realize the uses and the power of this over time. But to jump into a conversation, particularly with real estate agents, about the value of NFTs, that's not the way to teach this to people.
It's almost like taking it through a fire hose, rather than going back and kind of learning it little bits at a time, especially when you're talking about the older generation of agents and homeowners. They're going to need a little more time to wrap their mind around it, where the younger generation's like, oh yeah, I get it. It's all good. Their comfort level is going to be completely different than the older generation of homeowners and realtors.
Yeah. So to me, there's this progression, right? The first thing you got to realize, not necessarily understand, but realize there's something called blockchain, upon which products and services can be built, The ones we're most familiar with at this point in time are cryptocurrencies, of which there are various types, of which another piece is an NFT, non-fungible token, which will at some point get to where we have enough of this going on where we can actually have what we refer to as a crypto financial system. And if enough of that takes place, we'll actually have economies built upon it. And at some point, we'll have entire ecosystems built.
And then the internet will shut down.
Well, it has to reside on something, right?
Right.
We'll just be
And so when you go back to Web 1.0 was what? DNS and HTML.
Right.
yeah.
And Web 2.0 was LAMP, right? Linux, Apache, I don't remember the others acronyms. And then blockchain.
Yeah. It's
right?
so
Web 3. Web 3. So there's this, is there a Web 4? I don't know. We haven't even gotten into Web 3 yet. Matter of fact, Scott Galloway says it's not Web 3.
Yeah.
It's Web 2.00001.
And we'll put the link to his video in the comments too.
It's
But
only it's 2 minutes, right? It's a 2 minute.
Yeah.
Easy.
well, Saul, if people want to continue the conversation with you, they want to learn more about the data and things like that, what is the best way to get a hold of you? Where's the best place to find some of this information?
Saul at bettercallsaul.realtor.
Okay.
Send me an email. I answer all my emails. We have a website called The Data Advocate, which we're constantly working on trying to bring these new concepts and ideas to people in a way in which they understand it,
Yeah.
trying to put it in their world, right? So that they understand it. So thedataadvocate.com. And there's going to be a lot to talk about here for many years to come.
Yeah. Well, and your Facebook group too.
And we have a Facebook group, Real Talk, join us there and ask any question you like. And we've got, it's not just like any Facebook group. We've got attorneys and accountants and data scientists, lots of people that can authoritatively answer questions.
Awesome. And Rachel, if
Nice.
people have a referral in Chicago, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Best way to reach me is by cell phone at 630-542-8688 or via email at rreal@dealwithreal.com.
Awesome. Thanks for being on, guys.
Good to
Thanks,
see you.
everybody.